Hi Ruth, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you today?
I'm fine. It's been a couple of weeks since our last visit. How are things going?
Uh, Pretty much the same. Some days are better than others, but just about the same as it was the last time I spoke with you.
Okay. So, what about the kids and the husband? What about that still?
I mean, yeah, everything's status quo. Everything's the same. I did try to uh, take a walk one time, and I felt a little better after I took that walk. But for the most part, I don't feel like walking. So
Okay. Okay. What about well, that goes along with the no motivation, so that's pretty much the same too, correct? You're, when had our last appointment, you said that you felt like you didn't have a lot of motivation
right,
to do
yeah, I
much.
don't. You suggested walking, but I don't really feel like walking. I know I need to walk because I want to get my weight down. I want to feel good about myself, and I know that that would help me lose weight. But I just don't. I don't feel like it. I think about it every day, but when it comes to actually walking, I don't. I don't do it. I did it one or maybe two times the last time we spoke.
Okay. Sleep?
It's about the same. I still have the nightmares, whereas I wake up and then I can't get back to sleep. So maybe 3 hours a night. I wake up, stay for 10 minutes, probably go into the kitchen and get something to eat again, then go right back to sleep for maybe another 2 hours, 3 hours, and it's same thing. I wake up and sweats, and sometimes it's difficult to get back to sleep. Sometimes it's not.
Okay. And the crying spells?
Not as much. I had the spells mostly when I was physically at school, and it was time to do a presentation. And when I'm around the other classmates, sometimes I just have concerns, or I wonder what they think of me. You know, sometimes I know these people probably don't care about me, but sometimes I just wonder if they're talking about me, or if they think about me, or if they have an opinion of me in some sort of way. But no, not so much as I don't have the crying spells as much at home. That happens sometimes after I come out of a bad dream, but mainly the crying spells would take place when I was at school.
What are your dreams about?
Can't remember. I know my fears sometimes are about me dying, or my kids dying, my husband dying. And
I remember you
those
told me
are,
that.
yeah, that's. But as far as the dreams, a lot of times I can't remember what the dreams were about. I just remember coming out of a deep sleep and
You
just
said
being
startled.
afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Startled. Um, okay, well, um, did you do any more on I know you talked about the school just a minute ago when you were talking about your crying spells about how people felt, but what about your credentials, your teaching
And I'm
credentials?
still working on the credentials. Sometimes I wonder if it'll benefit me or not, because I have a substitute job waiting for me, and I don't want to take that substitute job while I'm working on my credentials to actually be a teacher. You know, so that's one of the reasons I took the suggestion from some of my classmates to seek out help, because it's like I'm running on a wheel to nowhere. I don't know where I'm going to end up after I've pretty much completed my education and everything that I worked so hard for. And I don't want to be stuck where I am, not wanting to get out in the workplace and actually do what I think I've been called to do.
Did you decide whether you were going to let your family know you were in therapy?
That's another problem. I think if they know that I'm coming here, I'm afraid of, what they'll think of me, that, I'm not a good mom, not a good husband. Just sometimes I feel like a failure, and I'm trying to get through this without them knowing it, and hopefully that I can become better after I'm done seeing you.
Well, it sounds like from when we talked, um, you know, you still have a lot going on. I applaud you for, you know, taking the walk and at least giving it a try. Part of therapy is going to be, you know, we work through some stuff, and some stuff will work for you, and some stuff won't work. So we'll just go through that. I'd like to, if you don't mind, I'd like to do a little exercise with you, just maybe to get a feel, or for both of us to get a feel, maybe clarify where some things are, you know, went wrong, maybe to cause you the grief that you're going through right now. Would you be willing to do that?
Certainly.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna go back in time a little bit. We're just gonna take a couple of deep breaths, breathe in as deep as you can, and then breathe out. Breathe in, and breathe out. We're gonna do it one more time. Breathe in, and breathe out. Do you feel a little more relaxed?
A little.
Okay, so close your eyes for me for a minute. And go back to a place maybe when you were younger that you were happy, that you can feel like you were playing or something, doing something that you enjoyed. Are you there?
I'm here.
Tell me one word that you feel about that, where you are in that memory.
I feel light.
Light?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Give me another word. Don't try to put too much thought into it. Just whatever word first comes to your mind.
Free.
Anything else?
No, that's it. When I was a kid, when I did have fun, I always felt light and free, and one of the things I enjoyed was when we would go out occasionally. I liked riding on swings, and I can remember my dad pushing me on the swing and just having that light, free feeling as I swung back and forth.
When you mentioned your dad, let's think of a memory or a time, you know, when you're having a moment with your father. Tell me when you're comfortable where you are, or uncomfortable. Tell me when you're ready.
Okay, that the moment that I just mentioned about us occasionally going out to the park was, in my opinion, the best times, or the best time that I had, because it was just about play. It wasn't him judging me for anything or criticizing me for anything, especially my weight and wanting me to lose weight as a kid, or criticizing the way I cleaned and the things that I did around the house that didn't please them. That was just a good time when we go to the park occasionally.
Considering, like, maybe not playing, but your father at that time, what word would you say comes to your mind?
When we're not playing?
When you're playing,
Oh,
you know, you're playing with the swing, he's
relaxed.
swinging you.
He's relaxed.
Relaxed. Okay. What about anything else come to your mind?
Just in general?
Mm-hmm. In this moment.
Oh, and then
In
no,
this moment
just
when you're
relaxed,
swinging with
because
your
my
mama.
mom would be there, he'd be there, and it was just a relaxed moment. I think more so for him because he was playing with me, but outside of that, I can't think of another word other than him being relaxed, being different from the way he was at home and the way he was when it related to his job.
And then you moved over to where you had some apprehensive feelings. You were talking about, you know, what it felt like when you weren't on the swings and he was pushing you. You mind going to one of those memories?
I don't mind, but they're painful, because that's where I believe most of my feelings are rooted, in the way I was raised by my mom and my dad, especially my dad. I just feel like they were always condemning me, and I was never good enough.
Well, I don't want to push you too far, but I definitely would like to, if you're willing to explore some feelings that might come up during that time. During those times. And I think that if we can maybe work through some of those feelings, process some of those feelings, I have a strong belief that you'd be able to move forward with whatever your current situation is.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think maybe you'd be willing to go with that? Or you?
Whatever you think is going to help me to get better, I'm willing to try it.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. That's good. That's what I want to hear, because anything that we're willing to do will, alleviate a barrier for us getting to where you feel better. And that's ultimately our goal, is to work on, I believe most of the stuff that you're suffering through today could be tied to that, so let's maybe just try it and see how you feel. Okay, so close your eyes. I know it's painful, but don't think too much about it. Just when you're there, what word comes to mind? Just tell me a word.
Anger.
Anger?
Mm-hmm.
You have another word?
Sad.
Anything else?
And sometimes lonely, because I felt no one was on my side.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, you can come back to where we are and come back today. How do you feel?
I still have some of those feelings. They're not like they were when I was a kid, but I have other things piled up on top of those feelings. But yeah, those feelings of anger sometimes still exist, because I'm not able to function the way I would like to function. I feel sad because of the same reason. And I guess the loneliness is somewhat my fault, because I don't really share with anybody what's going on. So I still feel like I'm dealing with all my problems by myself.
Tell me about this sad. What makes you sad about the situation?
Because I think I should be further along in my career. I'm sad because I'm not able to function like I think a normal woman of my age would function.
When you feel like you're going to go out and go teach, like you told me last time during our last session, you said, when you feel like you're going to do that, you feel very overwhelmed with fear. Tell me about that.
Just feel like I'm not good enough, and regardless to how hard I try, I feel that those people who surround me, or the kids maybe, may look at me and judge me based off of what I look like. I mean, I sound right to them, and I don't want to be a failure. I don't want to be looked at and criticized concerning how I look or how I speak or whatever they may think of me. That makes me fearful.
That sounds pretty awful to have all of those feelings all at one time. That's a lot of feelings. Well, what is it that after we talked last time, you told me about these things, we talked about them. When you went home, what did you think about? What were your feelings in the past week, and how did you feel in the past week about any of this, about moving forward and realizing the stem of where all of this anger and fear and where it all stems from? What were you thinking about?
I felt good after we spoke, because I felt like you were listening to me and you were trying to help me get to where ultimately I wanted to arrive, so that I can function and not have to deal with what I'm dealing with. I felt refreshed after leaving you, but like I said, I walked maybe once or twice, but then after that, I didn't have a desire to walk. I wanted to stay inside and not really associate with anyone. So some days I'll have decent days, some days real bad. It's never consistent, but for the most part, it's me dealing with the feelings of uh, rejection and anger and sadness and just the things that I think consume me on a daily basis.
And you said it yourself. You said that you feel like a lot of this is tied to your past and that nobody is listening to you. I heard, that's since we've seen each other, this is the second time that's what you told me. What would it look like if you were being heard or being listened to by your husband or your family or
My family, I think if I shared it with them, what I was going through, they wouldn't have a problem. Everybody's so busy, and I feel that if I sit everyone down or I share any of this with my kids, one, I think they're too young to have to deal with their mom's problems. But I feel if I shared it with them, that they would listen. My husband, I think he would listen, but I don't think he would really understand because he may have the feeling or believe that we have a nice home, we're well taken care of. So what problems could I possibly have? I graduated from college. I'm working on my teacher's credentials. So what could I possibly be dealing with that would cause me to not want to function? That causes me to be afraid when it's time to stand up and speak. I don't think they would understand. So I think that's one of the reasons I somewhat keep everything to myself.
well, when you I encourage you to talk with them about it because we definitely, it would help maybe if your family was aware of, you know, what was going on if you were in therapy and you were, trying to get better. I even thought that it might be good if we had a session with you and your husband,
Okay.
to kind of work on, how you do feel about those things. How do you feel about that?
Sounds like a good idea. I think it would be easier um, for him to accept it coming from you than it would be coming from me.
And I'd still like to really work on some of the fears and anxiety you have with concerning your father. I think that a lot of, just from that exercise that we did, I feel like some of what you're going through is just being brought from those fears and that stress of what you think about the relationship you have with your father. And why don't you, are you willing to, when you have maybe having a notebook around, and when you are, I don't want to overwhelm you, but when you have these dreams that you come out of, or when you have these overwhelming feelings that you talk about when you're thinking about going out and teaching, or when you're having these feelings that your husband doesn't want to listen to you, or that you feel like what you might have to say is not important enough to your children, I'd like for you not to write that down, but to write how you're feeling. Just open up a notebook and write how you're feeling. Think about it. Don't put too much, thought into what it's supposed to look like or whatever. Just write, and just date it and put a date and a time by it, and just write until you don't want to write anymore. When you do it the first couple of times, it may not be the easiest, especially if you're feeling bad, but it'll help get some of those feelings out, and then you can bring that notebook back the next time, and if you're willing, we can look at that and look at how you're feeling so we can process some of those feelings. Because I don't want to speak too soon, but I think each of those feelings are being attached to the current situations in your life, but I think they're the same feelings. But I think until we really can look at a pattern of each thing that makes you feel this way, or then we can look together at what you're writing and see what the pattern is of your feelings, and then we can start to analyze some of that and maybe get to the bottom of some of it, so that you can start feeling better. I've been thinking about your skill of binge eating, and you say that you don't feel well, and so you just eat something, and you just eat a whole bunch of it, and then you feel terrible. That's what you told me in your intake.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
I think that it's when would it be fair to say that that's when you're feeling these feelings you talk about at home when you're talking about?
Most of the time, yes.
Okay, so we're going to be replacing the binge eating with, a notebook. And we're going to write about the feelings instead of eating them. What does that sound like?
Sounds like a plan.
And then if we process some of those, and that right there is a new skill. We're going to replace writing what I'm feeling right now until I feel better with not going to the pantry and grabbing some ding dongs or whatever it is your favorite thing is. And then we can, see what's going on inside your head, during those moments. Because I don't necessarily believe that it's all the things that are bothering you. I think that the stress of those feelings, if we can get to the bottom of that, then I think we can it'd be much easier for us to work out your current situation.
Okay.
Where are you on the credentialing with your school? It's been 2 weeks since we've seen each other. Have you been to school?
Yes, I have.
So you're still working on it?
Yes.
You're still working on it. Okay. Well, I've given you, the exercise to go ahead and, I know that you've discussed that you have no motivation. So it may just take sheer will to do it, to write about it. But then, it have some data that we can process. Little by little, you can tell me yourself where these feelings are attached to.
Okay.
There's a lot of feelings all at one time, and it's overwhelming. And I think we can work on a better skill after the writing. The writing's going to help us process, but after that, we can come up with different interventions for the times that feelings overwhelm you. It won't always be that flood that's going on. I appreciate you allowing me to take you back to that place. So tell me what you think about what we just talked about, what I just said.
I appreciate it. I like the idea of having a game plan as to how to attack this so that I can get past this problem in my life, so to speak, because I'm tired of having to deal with it, and I'm tired of having to deal with it alone.
And the walking, I would love if you would want to, I know you said you did it once or twice, and we didn't talk about, doing it a whole bunch, but I still believe the walking as a way of getting out the house. You said you're not really wanting to get out the house. You were going to school, but you're not really wanting to get out the house. So, the walking may help you. I remember you talking about going to one of your children's extracurricular activity at school.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't feeling much about going.
Right.
If you get out, you may want to get out more. I'd like for you to continue at least to think about it. Think about maybe going for a walk.
Okay.
The writing is going to be really important. I hope that we can, when we meet again, I have some things to work on, with you. Let's see your paper. I'm not sure if you're, if you're repressing that you're not knowing what you're dreaming about. But on top of writing with this about your feelings, if at all you could remember a dream or a small portion of it, since this is so recurring for you right now, any data on those dreams would be good too. That particular would be a little bit different, not necessarily what you're feeling about the dream, because we know anxiety and fear. I mean, you've told me that a few times, but anything from those dreams, because it may help if we can analyze, what's going on in the dream. Might be a little scary, because if you're telling me you're waking up and you're having that fear, that moment when you wake up, then, I don't want you to make things worse for yourself, but knowing what goes on in those dreams might be good for us to work on.
Okay.
Might be good for us to analyze. So how do you feel?
Okay.
Really? Well, would you like to make an appointment for, next week again, and we'll talk about this?
Yes, around the same time.
I'm going to see what's going on with your dreams and see if there's, if it is a dream, a reoccurring dream that you're having that's making you, jump out of your sleep. But if we can't come up with something to analyze with that, I definitely would like to get you treated for, see if you have assessed for sleep apnea.
Okay.
To see if there's something going on there. There's a little bit that I looked at about your case. Sleep apnea just kept coming up when I would, look into what was going on with your sleep patterns, and so we'll do that. And I definitely want to get you. Do you have a primary care physician?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to maybe have you sign a release for your primary care physician, so we can get you an appointment to see about maybe getting you some, or maybe get an appointment with a psychiatrist, depending on what your primary care does, to maybe get on some medication. How you feel about that? I know you weren't too excited about that when we talked about it before.
Right. No, I'm still not excited about it, but I mean, if I have to, I will, but I don't really want to.
Well, I think it may help with the symptoms. Like we talked about before, it's not, it won't be a magic pill, but I think that it will help with the symptoms. And if we can alleviate some of these symptoms, then we can start analyzing and processing some of these feelings that you're having more deeply. And then we can, once they're processed, once you know where they are and what's going on with them, we'll be able to do something with them. I believe that, and that'll help you move on. You probably don't have to take medicine forever. But just while we're trying to get through this crucial time of figuring out how to move forward for Ruth. You can try it. If it doesn't work, you know, you can also, I'm not a medicine person, but you can talk to the doctor and ask more questions for the doctor, you know, see what's going on with that. But I definitely feel like we got to find out what's going on with your sleep patterns, and I'd like to alleviate some of the stress of the symptoms from your depression, okay? All right, well, thank you, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
Sounds good.